Hi, Marek.
Hi, Juana. How are you today?
Absolutely amazing. So, Marek, the headline of our today's Expert to Expert episode is Esports Goes Global. So, before we get started, there is always an intro, right? There is always an intro to a podcast, but I thought that we would do it a bit differently.
There you go.
So, let's introduce each other. So, I introduce you, you introduce me with 3 key points. And don't worry, I'll go first, right? And then after that, we decide if we get divorced professionally or not.
Okay, hopefully not.
All right, okay. So, Marek, you are the head of partnerships and also co-founder of Odin. And if I would describe you and introduce you with 3 key points, I would say you are super pragmatic. You are always on 24/7, obviously, as a co-founder, right? And the third one is you are very numbers driven. Also, obviously, as a banker. All right. Now you.
Now my turn. Okay.
Now,
If we have anybody on this podcast and everybody is listening in, if you think about esports and LATAM, you need to think about Juana. There is no other way. No other way. You are a hugger. That is for sure. And you are extremely knowledgeable about the esports and LATAM ecosystem. Plus, you are the person that was born probably in the wrong country, I would say as well. So, and that would be probably it.
and you're so right. Yes, and I remember when we saw each other in Hamburg at TI, and someone asked me, "So, Connor, what's your role? What you are doing within Odin?" And, I made my speech, and then you said, and I would add that you are probably born in the wrong country. And I was like, oh my God, that's so right. That's so right. So I feel so at home in Latin America. And I was also thinking before we kind of got on this podcast, I asked myself when it was that we met. And I think it was definitely 6 or 7 years ago in the base office in Berlin. And that was 2019, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
So that's now quite a while. So 2019, when we look at that time, esports still was a niche, right? So we had the first movers like, Bet365, and also for Stake, it was their key topic. So now we are seeing sportsbooks globally get really serious about esports. So it's not an experiment anymore. It's not a niche anymore. It's a key vertical. So this whole expert to expert conversation is all about the why. The numbers really, they have changed a lot. And also the mindset, how esports is kind of anticipated. So I'm very excited that we two have the opportunity to talk to each other and also discuss a couple of points.
Oh, absolutely. As you were speaking about like some, not sure whether I should call it prehistoric era of esports betting, but at the same time, it was definitely like a dawn era of it. I can think about one of our clients, which is Tip Sport, and when I spoke, we have an extremely good relationship. And when we were chatting together, what I found really intriguing on their side is it was extremely pragmatic, as you called me, and I love that analogy. 6-7 years ago, when they were looking at something completely different in the data. But what they found out was that esports was their fifth biggest title when it comes to new bettors betting on something. And they were looking at it the way, okay, so it's still like 1% of our portfolio. It is probably 20th in our sportsbooks. It's very, very low. But at the same time, looking at every fifth bettor that is coming to our portfolio, she bets on esports. Does this have actually a potential to grow? And they invested. This is also when we started to work together because they wanted to have a better esports offering. And 6 years down the line, right now, esports is their fifth biggest title already. It is 7% of their handle. This year, it has a potential to become the fourth biggest title in live. And this is not niche anymore. And as we started with the topic, esports goes global. Esports has gone global, I would say. We are already there. This is not about something is coming. It is something that is already here. And as a bookmaker, you either have the option to participate on it and or to be left behind.
I absolutely agree. So for so many bookmakers, it's already under their top 5 sports. And that's amazing because I remember I had discussions in 2019 and 2020 where people said, oh, yeah, esports will never be under the top 10, but here we are. Well, these were the projections, and that's what it is right now. And also from an operator point of view, and we get this question a lot, right? Obviously, when you look at it from a business point, you as an operator, you always ask yourself, what's in it for me, right? And there are so many numbers occurring when it comes to, what's the projected revenue? And when we look at specifically the esports industry revenue, and I will just read some numbers because I found this really interesting. When we look at the esports industry revenue, it's projected to reach 4.8 billion in 2025. In 2024, we were at 2.13 billion. Sponsorships alone are expected to account 837 million in 2025. And when we look at the esports betting market size, estimated market volume of 2.8 billion in 2025, that's the estimation. So I always found these numbers really interesting because obviously we cannot really prove them, right? But yes, there is growth. So I always look at those a bit, it's not that easy. When I was in Mexico now, last month, there was one operator and he asked me, okay, Juana, but what's in it for me? What's the market size in Mexico? Or what's the market size in Peru? What's the market size in Colombia? So we can always tell them, okay, we can tell you what we see within Odin, what our clients already, what they see. And if you do it right and if you do it smart, then esports will be 5 to 10% of your sportsbook volume. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts all around these numbers that are available on different sites.
Yeah, and this is the tricky part of the betting in general, right? The big boys do not necessarily share with you their figures because they would love esports betting to remain a blue ocean for them, because this is what we've seen many times on the market as well. Unless you have the right product and the right marketing that actually speaks to the esports audience, you are not going to make it. So it will be small in your portfolio, it will be not profitable in your portfolio, and you will be looking at it like, nah, esports is not for me. When we look into our own figures, we know that we have essentially the partners that are already making billions in terms of profit, in terms of hundreds of millions in terms of profit when it comes to esports betting. They are making billions when it comes to handle. So those figures, some of those figures that you mentioned yourself, we are just doing on our portfolio alone, because as Odin, we have traded a couple of billions of volume already on the esports lines. So in this regard, the market is definitely there, and hopefully, with us benefiting our clients in that regard, we are also making them hundreds of millions annually when it comes to profit, when it comes to esports betting. So this figure, to some extent, and many times you got a mixed figures, because some of them are speaking about billions here, billion there, but they are not speaking whether this is GGR, whether this is handle, what it is. But we know that market itself is already a couple of billions worth of GGR. So essentially, we are speaking about more in terms of volume, and we are looking at tens of billions of volume when it comes to esports betting itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, 100%. Also, when we look at it now from a regional perspective, right? Because esports in Europe is different than esports in North America, in Latin America. Obviously, from a Latin point of view, I can say that Peru is very Dota 2 dominated. They have a huge fan base of Dota 2 fans, and this is why this is the most important title there. When we look at Brazil, there is Counter-Strike that has a huge impact. Also, new titles, right? Like Free Fire is very dominant, very important. When we look at Mexico, there is League of Legends. So there are these nuances that you need to know also in order to market, right? Now, from your perspective, when you look at APAC, Europe, North America, what are the titles that are important there?
And we discussed this multiple times. This is one of the intricacies of esports, because we are talking about esports, but at the same time, you never speak about ball sports. And in ball sports, you have football or soccer, how they call it in the US. You have tennis, you have basketball. You would probably never put them in one basket as speaking about ball sports. But at the same time, we are speaking about esports as a one category. At the same time, Dota 2, this is about Peru, this is about CI, this is about Philippines. League of Legends, this is about Southeast Asia, Asia in general. This is about Europe to some extent. Counter-Strike is big in Brazil, in Scandinavia, in Poland, in multiple different other states. So essentially, similarly, as you have different audiences in different regions for sports, you have also different audiences for esports. That's why ODGG in general, or esports in general, is a global phenomenon, and you will essentially see different audiences in different regions. And that's why you need to cater to all of them to have the coverage in each and every title, because of Dota 2 fans, they will be not watching CS2. Some of them will, but hopefully this will be even lower. So essentially, you are catering to multiple different sports that behaves differently. They have different calendar. They have different peak events. Many of them have different dynamics, because CS2 is FPS first-person shooter. Dota 2, this is MOBAs and League of Legends. Then you have your PUBGs and other different games. So each and every of them behaves to some extent differently. You have to have different models, different approach to the audiences, and also different channels how to essentially speak to them. And you know it yourself that also from the Latin perspective, the market, even Latin is a huge region, right? We are speaking about individual countries. We call it Latin, but there are multiple different countries. And they also, each and every of them behave differently when it comes to esports.
Absolutely. I agree. The taste is different in every different country. And as you said, it's always easy to call it esports, but obviously within esports, you have so many different titles and the fans are so different, right? So when we look at viewership and also monetization, because obviously monetization is always a big topic, right? From your perspective, what changed in the last 2 to 3 years to make esports betting more viable and also profitable for operators?
From that perspective, the industry is maturing in general, and many times when we are speaking specifically to regulators in US, there is the perception of underage players and underage bettors. This is not the case at all. Counter-Strike, Dota 2, League of Legends, these are the titles that have been around more than a decade. So people that started to play that in their 20s, right now they are in their 30s, even 40s. So, and of course, back in the day, they had access to online tools, to the computers, to all of that. So they are above the average when it comes to their affluency. They have higher purchasing power. So in this regard, you are speaking to the generation that is pretty much digitally savvy. They are extremely affluent. So in this regard, they also relationship with the game is different, because they play the game usually, they watch the game, and now they want to bet on it as well. So you have that full cycle where the relationship between the bettor in esports is also different when it comes to betting, because I suspect that many of the football bettors, many of the basketball bettors, they essentially, to some extent, play the game, or not at all, they are just watching the game, but they still bet on it. In esports, this is many times much more connected, where essentially you play the game, you watch your favorite streamers, and you are betting on it. So the entire industry has matured from the perspective of monetization. You have more and more people coming to the age where they are eligible to betting either plus 18 plus or 21 plus. The industry is growing in a way that there is better proposition and better offering from the bookmaker side. Also, the situation in US, in Brazil, where the markets are opening up when it comes to betting. So there are much more opportunities in betting, in esports betting ecosystem anyway. And from the monetization perspective, this is definitely the element for bookmakers and for the tournament organizers to consider as well. If you look at the ecosystem, one of the top 2, top 3 sponsorship is essentially coming from the betting environment. So the industry is here to support the growing of the esports ecosystem. At the same time, from the bookmakers, many of them that were skeptic in the past, when it comes to volume, when it comes to profitability, should have they been able to find the right partner and also invest into the marketing. They are able to see that the volume is growing, the margin is there, and they are able to attract a different audience through this, not anymore the niche, but a critical element of your betting offering.
Yeah, and also what you mentioned, and I find this very interesting when it comes to how the regulators perceive esports, right? We both were on panels many, many times also with regulators, because our approach at Odin is always, we want to be transparent, we want to share our knowledge, we want to share our experience, we want to educate. I remember we had calls with the regulator in Peru. We were on panels with regulators in the US, and always this kind of transparency first approach, because we want to help that the ecosystem grows further. And for that, being transparent is crucial, right? Now, having esports or having esports as part of the strategic agenda, I feel this is also essential, because when we look at it from a point of view, the esports audience, it's a younger demographic, right? They are not really interested in traditional sports, because sometimes operators, they say, oh, no, look, I don't want, to cannibalize my business. And it's not about cannibalizing your business that you have for traditional sports. We are talking about additional audience, additional clients, additional revenue and growth. So what do you think?
There's a huge misconception about esports from the perspective of who is the audience, how to attract them, and how to monetize them. And we work with the partners globally, right? We work also with the crypto bookmakers. We work with multiple bookmakers globally. And in that regard, what we have learned was that bookmakers should stop thinking about the esports betting GGR. They should more think about what is this audience, how to attract them, how to get them through the door. And essentially, what we have learned was that esports offering is what bring the younger audience through the door, because they want to bet on their Counter-Strike, they want to bet on their League of Legends, they want to bet on their Dota 2. At the same time, whatever in terms of handle, they are betting on the esports side. As much money they are willing to bet on the sportsbook side as well, for traditional sports, for the top tier events, for the national games, for Champions League, for these kind of events. So you are essentially doubling your GGR by somebody you get through the door because of the esports offering. And on top of it, whatever you are making on esports and sportsbook combined, you can double it again through the casino side. So if the bookmakers are looking at the value of the esports better from the perspective of esports betting, this is quadruple to that, because you are able to cross-sell on the sportsbook side, on the casino side as well. But first thing to consider is you are getting them through the door because of your high-quality esports offering and marketing, and then you are able to monetize them further. So this discussion from the perspective, exactly as you started, right? The strategy. What is the strategy? The strategy is to attract the younger, more affluent audience that is hard to get because many times they have ad blockers. Many times you will not gather them through the traditional sportsbook events. You will get them through the door from the esports offering, and then you monetize them on the sportsbook side, on the casino side. But you will not get them through the door without the high quality esports offering and the marketing element.
Yes, and also what you just said is exactly what operators should consider and what they should think about to not fall behind. Because sometimes I also hear, esports is not a thing here. And then I'm like, look, but this is the perfect opportunity for you to be one of the first movers. And sometimes they also say, but I have esports, and but the esports product that they have don't is not a high quality. So there is very low uptime, very limited number of live markets. And then I always jump in and say, okay, look, if you have esports on your portfolio, right, but the quality is really bad, then there is a chance that esports bettors, they go to your site and they place one bet, but it will only be one bet because the experience is so bad. So you can be a first mover and offer a high quality product, because then the esports bettors, they definitely come back because they want to be engaged, right? So esports is growing 100%, but growing smart is the difference. And first, you need to have a high quality product, and obviously we help with that. But also you need to cater to this specific audience, because esports bettors are different compared to traditional sports bettors. Maybe we can just elaborate a little bit about the difference from the esports bettor to a traditional sports bettor.
Yeah, absolutely. As we were saying, this audience is tend to be younger in average, also extremely digitally savvy. They are also used to cryptocurrencies. So essentially, what we are looking on the market is, and to some point, what you addressed, right? Uh, all of this audience is essentially used to Netflix. I'm watching the movie when I want it. I listen to the music when I want it on Spotify. I watch my content on Twitch for the match that I want instantly, and all of that content is on demand. And suddenly I'm going to the sports book. I want to bet on my match on the esports side, either Counter-Strike, Dota League, and suddenly I can't bet at all because the uptime is only 50%, right? So for the second half of the match, I can't bet at all. Of course, exactly as you said, this will be probably my first bet and the last one. Or probably I would not be even able to place that one because the lines are suspended. So this is where the opportunity of choice, so uptime, number of live markets, and all of that, bet builders, widgets, streaming, all of that comes into the place where you want to attract this audience. Coming back to the last question, how they are different. Absolutely, they tend to be much younger in general. Some of the analysis that we've done with our sportsbook partners was that there was the average age of a new esports bettor at around 24 years old, while for football, soccer, this was 33 years old, while we have multiple examples from the studies that, for example, in baseball, when it comes to US, this is even beyond 50, beyond 55. So from the perspective of the who that person is that they are, again, much more influential, they have high income, also they are digitally savvy, they are used to crypto. In that case, we have already our own internal analysis where the average, I'm not sure, I believe it was average, it was not median, average bet in fiat sports books on esports was €6, while on crypto books this was 27. So this gives you the flavor how these players are really quite native to the crypto casinos as well. They use crypto, so essentially they are really there to bet and even bet more. And we have also the analysis where the average bet on soccer many times we are looking at 4 or 5 euros. While again, when we look at esports, we are speaking about essentially 20 euros plus. So the people are much more connected with the esports, and they bet much more when it comes to either the average bet or essentially also the handle.
Yeah, I agree. And we can also agree that esports is already global. It doesn't go global, it is already global. So it's already there. So, Marek, that was a great expert to expert conversation. Thank you so much. So, since I'm a hugger right now, I would hug you, right? And also, in the next episode, I will chat with Michael, and Michael is leading the product team of Olin, and we will talk about how we built our esports ecosystem from the ground up. and also why it is so important to have the right infrastructure and why that makes a difference between just offering esports and actually making it work. So, Marek, it was great talking to you.
Pleasure as always.
Ciao.
Thank you so much. Bye.